I've read over 400 scripts, and here are 5 lessons I've learned. I'm gonna be very honest with you guys. I haven't read 400 full scripts yet. However, I have read close to 70, and I've read the first 5 pages of easily over 500. So, I figured 400 would be a nice, middle ground. In that time, there are a few lessons that I've learned. The first piece of advice is pretty simple, but it's self-explanatory, and that is keep your action lines thin. The fastest way to get somebody to be overwhelmed and uninterested in a script is by giving them so much action lines that they're forced to immediately visualize an entire world before they're even given an entry point. Characters and dialogue are great ways to get people intrigued into a character or story that gets you into that world and allows you to flesh it out. So when you start out your script, specifically your first 5 pages, make sure to have thin action lines that are easy and digestible for a reader. Number 2, focus on 1 to 2 characters max. This one is my personal opinion, but the fastest way to feel a connection to a script is when you keep it simple to start. Now, you can have big ensembles with lots of characters, and you can want to explore a lot of them, and by all means do that. But if the way you start your script is by diving into 5 characters all with different names and establishing their relationships, you're instantly going to get the viewer to be confused. Because if you're reading a script, you're not going to be able to instantly memorize all these characters right away. You should slowly feed the characters to the reader. Unless, of course, you're just an unbelievable writer, in which case, what do I know? I haven't had anything bought yet. But keeping it very thin with the characters you choose to start with, it does 2 things. One, it kind of gives the reader a chance to kind of put themselves in the mind of your protagonist, which oftentimes when you're writing a script, your protagonist is the person that you really want the audience to kind of inhabit as they go through this story. Like, your protagonist is essentially the vessel that the viewer or the reader, depending on what context or medium the story is being told in, they're the vessel in which you're going along for the ride. So a great example of that would be in Jaws. Detective Brody is the vessel of the story. So by starting out with what's going on with him, well, that's actually a bad example because you got the kids to start the movie, but you're in his head. So right after that, you go to Detective Brody to understand where the protagonist is, to then follow him along the story. Lesson number 3, keep the tone clear and consistent, and set it early. Tone is so important to a script. Tone defines whether you're making an R-rated slasher or a PG-13 comedy. Your tone of your film is where the director gets to really shine with their voice. Your tone is what's going to get a director interested in the story, it's going to get the reader interested in what they're listening to or reading, and it's going to get the audience hooked. If you're telling a story that's fun, make it fun. Keep it fun. If you're telling a story that's serious, let the audience know that they should be taking it seriously. If the reader does not know the tone of the story and they're confused as to what it is supposed to be, they are not going to know how to read it. And that's the important thing. You want to make reading your script as easy as possible for whoever is reading it. Lesson number 4, absolutely no filler. Now, I'm talking specifically for the first 5 pages of a script. You can have filler in your story, but the places where you really want to get rid of filler is in the beginning and in the end. Your first act and your third act have to rhyme in a sort of poetic sense. At least that's for more serious stories. Comedies can be a little bit more loose, but even still, the structure I think applies. When you're telling a story, you really want to get someone hooked. And a hook doesn't work if you start out with filler. Now, there are 2 ways you can really start a story that works in this kind of framework of thinking. One is you start off immediately with your main character, showing where they are in life and kind of setting up where they have to go. Or 2, you can show a separate character, entity, or plot device to the story, and you can establish what that reflects onto your protagonist, who you can then show next. No matter what, you don't want to start the film with meaningless information. The first 5 pages should be as densely filled with important, relevant information you can possibly fill. If you do that, you're going to have a very strong start. And lastly, number 5, make the reader ask questions. Don't spoon feed the reader all the information and all the answers and certainty on the characters and how they are. This is one that in particular I struggle with as a writer. I like certainty. I like knowing where characters stand. I like knowing who they are and what they are. But when in life do we really know anybody? When do we know what someone's thinking exactly? We're left to infer, and we're left to look at people, to see them, to witness them, and to come to our own conclusions. And that's what a great actor can do. A great actor can take material that's open-ended, and they can interpret it how they want, and they can impart that interpretation onto us. And that is the gift of acting. And as a writer, if you don't give actors an opportunity to make the audience infer, you are robbing them and yourself of great performances. Questions are great. A great movie makes you asking more questions as the story goes on. Now, I'm not here to tell you what your questions have to be or where the story has to go, but all I can say is that when I'm asking questions, I'm an engaged reader. And if you're trying to get your script picked up, or you're trying to keep people who are reading it engaged, make sure they're asking questions. Make sure they are investing not just their time, but their interest into what they are reading. If you can do that, you can get somebody hooked, no matter what it is. In the last year, I've had 2 different internships that have had me reading scripts and offering opinion. I'm by no means an expert. I've never bought a script, nor have I been the one making the decisions of what gets made. But my opinions still have impact on who reads certain scripts. That's just what interns do. That's how the industry's built, and that's how it will be built. So knowing how to get your script through the entry point and up the ladder is important. I can't speak to what happens to your script, but if you follow these 5 steps, I'll tell you this. If I were to be reading your script, I'd almost certainly be hooked. Now, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for watching.